It's Monday, June the 3rd, 2024, a glorious, warm evening here on the North Coast. Welcome to the Civic Union, a collaboration between the Department of Communication Studies at Cal Poly Humboldt and KZZH Community Media, uniting the people of Humboldt County with their elected representative processes and community helpers. I'm your host, Dr. Aaron Donaldson, and as always, we would love to hear from you. You can email us at thecivicunion@gmail.com. That's all one word, thecivicunion@gmail.com. We will read and respond to appropriate emails on the air. Maybe you know someone representing your community that we could profile on our show. Give it a try. That's the Civic Union. That's all one word at gmail.com. Today, we are talking to Dr. Marisol Ruiz from the School of Education at Cal Poly Humboldt. Dr. Ruiz is also the chapter president of the Humboldt chapter of the California Faculty Association, the union representing teachers, librarians, counselors, and coaches at Cal Poly Humboldt. Dr. Ruiz, thank you so much for making the time to talk to us tonight, and welcome to the Civic Union.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing well. I understand that you are joining us from a conference right now, and you just found a room where you can sit down and talk to us. What conference are you attending?
No, it's New Mexico. It's on for teachers. It's on culturally and linguistically sustaining pedagogies in New Mexico.
Oh, that's very cool. I would love to spend quite a bit of time talking to you about just that. But today we are here to talk about your work with the California Faculty Association. And just to be transparent to all the folks out there, I am a member myself of the California Faculty Association, and I'm in fact the secretary. So Dr. Ruiz and I have worked together for a couple of years. But this is, I believe this is your last year as the union president. You're going to be moving on to cool and other things next year. So I was kind of really looking forward to taking this opportunity to talk to you. Can you give our listeners a little bit of background about what brought you here to Humboldt County?
I was teaching at New Mexico State University, and then I applied to a job in California because I graduated from San Francisco State, and my family's all in the Bay Area, and I wanted to be closer to home. And really, my grandmother was dying during that time, so I wanted, traveling from New Mexico all the way over, it's like a day, right, to get to California, to the Bay Area. So I wanted somewhere, or 2 days. I wanted somewhere closer so we could see her, and it was great. I got the job, and my grandmother died that year, so we were able to go back and forth 5 hours, and see her and spend that last year with her. That was important. So that's why I came to Humboldt, and I applied to the position in education, and I got it.
Were you familiar with the area before? Had you spent any time up here?
Okay. So before I was also an associated student when I was in San Francisco State when I was a teenager, and we came to one of the meetings here. And a meeting with students where we were organizing. And so all of us came here one time, and I thought it was beautiful. So it's interesting that one day I was here when I was still a teenager in my early, maybe 20. I was 20 and a representative and doing, organizing with the students.
That's very cool. I was a graduate student at U of O in 2008, and my partner Kate and I came camping at Patrick's Point, and that was way before we ever moved here. I think this place kind of, gives you hints that you should come back. I know a lot of people that feel that way. So anyway.
Yeah, and not only that, but it's like death and going to Humboldt. I don't know what's going on, but yeah, I came here because when I was a high school teacher in Mission High School, one of my students was gonna come to Humboldt State. He got a scholarship, and he was gonna come to Humboldt State University, and we were so proud of him. But that year he gets shot, so he never gets to make it.
Wow.
Ray Bass, and his name was Ray Bass, and we loved him so much. And I just think it's interesting. Like we were all excited that he was coming to Humboldt, and then he's shot, he doesn't make it, but then I come.
How long have you been active in union work? Was this something you were doing before you came here?
Mm-hmm. So at San Francisco State, I was hired for the local here. As I did Center for Third World Organizing, and they had organized. They had, they were organizing with unions, but not only with unions, also community organizing as well. And so part of that, I was placed in Portland, Oregon, which is not the organizing today we critique, right? That you do you're not from the area and you come and you organize, but people still do it. And it's still effective. So we get trained, and then I stayed there almost 6 months organizing the hotel workers, hotel and restaurants. And I was still very young, 20s, early 20s.
What made you decide to run for the CFA chapter president?
I ran for the CFA chapter. I've been in the union for 11 years, and we wanted, so since I got here, it was maybe each time I get a little bit more active. I don't know if I was the secretary, but I did take a lot of the roles of treasurer. The CTA and CFA were working together. Now they split, but we work with. I was also the CTA representative. I was a racial justice person as well. So I've taken almost all the positions. So what's next? I haven't been VP nor president, so that was next.
Just the next natural step of the evolution there. I see. you move through all the chairs, and then it's the last one left.
Yeah, I mean,
very cool.
Yes.
We've been doing this show for about a year now, and we mostly have been interviewing folks like city council members and, county representatives, elected people that most people would think of when they think of elected city people. You're the first union representative that we're interviewing, and it is an elected position. This was an election that you ran for, and so I'm just curious, what was running for union president like? Is it at all like a normal election?
Yes, because people want to say, what are you going to do for us? I'm like,
yeah.
I'm going to represent you the best I can and try to meet your demands as best that I can as well, right? So, yeah.
Did you spend a lot of time campaigning? Yeah, go for it.
Yes, I mean, a little, I feel like there was a small window, but yes, we did. And then my students were funny because as soon as they saw I was running, they were telling everybody, that I was ready and that they should vote for me. So my students also went to professors, to all their professors, and were like, you don't know Marisol's running. You need to vote for her. She's good. She'll represent you. She'll fight for you. And she's fought for us, and she'll fight for you. So my students were great.
I've met some of your students, and they're typically pretty big fans of yours. So that's a good legacy right there. Did you run on like any particular issues? Were there things that you were saying that you wanted to particularly focus on before you were elected?
Well, I feel like when we're the same thing that the national and statewide campaign, right, for racial and social justice, for to be an anti-racist campus, to strengthen our Title IX processes, to fight for better wages, especially for the lowest paid, to make a campus more accessible to everyone, right? Et cetera, anything that, to fight for all of those things. And of course, we don't have enough time to do all of, but yeah, as much as possible. Another university is possible, so we can try to fight for those things as much as possible.
It's a really wide range of issues. I said that the CFA represents teachers, librarians, counselors, coaches. Not only are we doing workplace stuff, but we're also involved, as you said, with all of these like diversity, equity, and inclusion mandates that are pretty important. What do you think are the skills that it takes to be like an effective union president leader just in normal circumstances? We had a busy year, and we're going to talk about all the chaos that happened to this year. But just like in normal circumstances, what would you say are the skills that make an effective leader in those contexts?
As someone that has good interpersonal skills, someone that is good at organizational skills, and it would be ideal if some organizing, have some skills in organizing, and I think that's something that as professors we don't have. We don't have that. But
tend to be somewhat
I think
insular creatures.
the ability, I mean, we are professors, so we do know how to educate and to, say what the issue is and why we are fighting for X, Y, and Z, right?
Yeah.
So I think that those are good skills to, but yeah, I think a good communicator, a good persuader, no, or someone that is able to say like, this is why we're doing this, and to bring people back to like, these are the issues and this is why it's important for us to fight for them.
When you say good at organizing, kind of like elaborate a little bit on what that is. What does that mean?
Organizational, just because there's so many moving parts of everything that we're doing. And so it's like someone that has good organizational skills. So one thing is good organizational skills, and the other thing is good at organizing, which we understand them. A lot of us don't have that. Like, we're not full-time organizers, but some organizing skills is important.
Yeah. Is there
And what I mean by that is like how to like do a campaign, right? If we're doing this campaign, how do we make it effective? How do we tell people why is this important? How do we become policy? And I think and it could be and there's a difference, grassroots organizing versus policy. Something that we want in policy that's different, and we do a lot of legislative work as well. So but all of that needs some grassroots organizing with community. Not only at the campus level, we also need community support.
Yeah, I think when I think of good organizers, I think of folks that are in multiple spaces across the community. They're involved in lots of different groups, and they network with those groups. And as you said, I think it's very important. I'm a communication person, so interpersonal communication, I think, is how you connect those groups and get those groups to see the kind of solidarity. You're great inspiring folks with a megaphone. I'll just speak to that. You've got that going. And that's not easy. Speaking in public is something most people shy away from. Was that ever hard for you, speaking in public? You seem pretty charismatic when you're up in front of a bunch of people.
Oh my God, thank you so much. Yes. My heart used to like beat almost out of my chest. I mean, I think we're professors and we've been doing this for a minute, so it doesn't. But at first, yes, I was like, But I think organizing helps. Like, I mean, since I was a teen, we were doing organizing, and so you're pushed to speak when we also always tell people that they need to speak for themselves. People need to learn and speak for themselves, and we could support as much as possible. But yes, in terms of issues that affect us and all of us, yes, but sometimes you do, depending on the crowd, you do get nervous. Yeah.
I'm a public speaking.
We do it so much, I think it goes away. The practice makes excellence. Right?
That's what I say in my public speaking class. It's like cold water, and if you sit in it long enough, you learn how to cope. It's always cold, but you learn how to cope.
And your heart doesn't beat anymore, right? It's not going to come out of your mouth.
It'll start, but then you calm it back down. And I do think it helps. Like, I gave a couple speeches with the union this year, and when you see your colleagues out there, and when you're committed to the cause and you know what you're fighting for, that makes a lot of those nerves go away. And that energy to me turns into excitement, at least for me. It's public speaking is not easy, but it's a big part of organizing, I think. So,
and I think the nervousness is also the responsibility that you're going to communicate the message that the people want you to communicate, and you want to do it well. And so part of it is that nervousness. Am I going to do it well? Am I going to be effective?
Right.
Is my point going to come across? Are people going to feel like, yes, I want to do this. Yes, I agree with you 100%. That's what you want, because you have a lot of people counting on you. And so that's part of the nervousness too, I would say.
And part of being the union president is speaking for your colleagues. Like, obviously you have an opinion, but you're trying to do your best to represent, as we understand it, the attitude of the colleagues, which can be more complex than just our opinion. That could be tough.
It is very tough.
For sure. Is there anyone that you look to for mentorship or guidance or like inspiration as you became the union president? Like, who do you turn to for that?
So one of my good friends and organizing buddies from Los Jardines and also the Southwest Network for Economic and Environmental Justice. Her name is Sophia Martinez. Shout out to Sophia Martinez. She is a long-term environmental justice organizer, and I've had the pleasure to organize with her, alongside her. And for me, she's inspirational. And she's always like, Maris, well, think about these things. And since she's been doing it, and she's always on the ground organizing. I mean, she's in her 60s now, so since teen to now.
Wow.
Oh, 70. She's already 70. So she's been a long time organizer and very inspirational to everybody and to so many people. And so she's good. She has an eagle eye to like see what's missing when you're organizing or doing a campaign. Definitely her. I would say she inspires me. She was fighting for the landfill, against the landfills in Wagamon or in Mora County. So and against the nuclear waste that plagues New Mexico, right? A lot of the nuclear waste goes to New Mexico. So she's been fighting against that forever with Richard Moore. So both of them, I think, are inspirational since the 60s all the way now, still fighting. And how do you sustain the organizing and social justice? And if we don't look to these people that have been doing it for that long, then who do we look up to?
Yeah.
Like they've been able to sustain it. And so I always get my anything that I'm doing, I get their opinion to see like, am I doing it this right? And definitely they're my guides.
A lot of tactics would translate across issues, I would imagine, and understandably so too, with just the kind of emotional load of dealing with the kind of work that goes into some of this, I think. And having that kind of institutional memory and knowledge, that would be just like totally without value. That'd be very cool.
Yeah, and it's because they always, even with students, right? They come and they go. Some faculty come and go.
Yeah.
It's like we have to have that institutional memory because that's what keeps us fighting for a public university, a university for the people, not for corporate greed. And I think this is where environmental justice, like they're fighting against corporations, who are contaminating our planet. And we're fighting against our university continuing to be public and a public good for all. Yeah. And keeping corporate greed out. And that has been difficult. And also the money that we make, who are we investing in? Trying not to invest it in things that will destroy our humanity or planet, right? So it's just like we're pushing back.
We're going to talk about the strike here in a little bit, but the chant was no cuts, no fees, no corporate universities. And
that's my favorite chant. I live by that.
You are listening to KZZH 96.7 FM. This is the Civic Union, a collaboration between the Department of Communication Studies at Cal Poly Humboldt and Access Humboldt, uniting the people of the county with their elected officials and community helpers. We're here today talking to Dr. Marisol Ruiz, president of the Humboldt chapter of the California Faculty Association, which is a union representing teachers, librarians, counselors, and coaches at Cal Poly Humboldt. Dr. Ruiz, I really appreciate you taking the time to give us a little bit about your background. Let's kind of delve in a little bit more to the work that you do as the union president. What is the CFA? How would you answer that question for listeners in Radioland out there who maybe have never heard of this union at all? Like, what is the CFA?
The CFA is the California Faculty Association, like you said, composed of librarians, coaches, and professors, lecturers, and all of us are part of one of the biggest unions who's fought for the rights and the working conditions of faculty. And we know good working conditions are also our students' learning conditions. If they give us too many classes, too many students, how can we attend to all of our students and focus as we mentor and we guide them throughout their professional lives? So yes, that is our union, and that's the work that we're doing. And we are one of the biggest, and we have the best rights. That's why someone's trying to destroy our union and trying to get everybody to opt out of it, right? So we've had that. But we stay strong, union strong. So a lot of people haven't bought into that and continue to pay dues and continue to pay what we give, because if we don't have that, we will sink like the right wants us to.
Yeah, the legacy of the CFA is pretty substantial in academia. Again, when I came here in 2015, one of the things that really drew us here was the knowledge that the CSU has pretty good, labor rights for lecturers. After a couple of years, you can get a contract, and there's, pretty robust entitlement system and things like that. And for most radio listeners, that may not mean a whole lot, but as someone who was deciding where to start a life as an educator, those kind of protections were incredibly significant, and they were hard fought for. It is the legacy of a lot of work of organizers over decades doing a ton of work to make sure that folks like lecturers and counselors and coaches and obviously, yes, professors and librarians and all those other folks get the labor, the pay we deserve and the good conditions. We ask everyone this question. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, and we were founded in 1983. I forgot to say that. And we have at least 29,000 members. So it's composed of 23 campuses, right, throughout the California. So we're one big university, even though sometimes things don't seem seamlessly as you transfer from one CSU to the next, and it makes it bureaucratic. We don't like that.
Yeah.
But yes, we have a lot of faculty that we represent, and I just represent our one campus, but there are 23 CFA presidents.
And obviously not everyone on our campus is in the union, but we fight for all of the workers, regardless of their membership status. I was going to bring these numbers and I don't have them. We're pretty well represented, though, as a CSU as far as our union membership. We have quite a few more, I think, people that are members here, and we get pretty good involvement in events and things when, like, we just saw a strike and stuff. We had pretty high response rates, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're one of the campuses with the most union members. So thank you, everybody. Let's stay union strong.
Yeah.
And let's, like some of the other union members, we want to make this a union town.
Yeah. It's never too late to join. And if you left, we are always happy to have you back. Come back to that union.
And you are the union. Some people think like, oh, you made the decision. Well, it was a vote, and maybe most people wanted us to do this, but then you joined the union. Don't leave the union. Join the union. Become part of the leadership. Bring your opinion and lead us in the way that you want to be led for us to lead as a union. We also don't just represent maybe your interests. We represent everybody's. So I also feel like, when people leave, I'm just like, you got mad at one thing, but let's all come together and let's discuss, let's grapple with these issues or these tensions, and let's move forward. But we are, because some people say we represent you, you represent us. We are the union. You are the union, not me. I'm not the one making all the decisions. We're not our little board, right? We started with 6, and now we gain more members. So that's good. But more people that will do the work.
Our colleague, Dr. Cannon, gets me on this quite a bit, where I'll say the union doesn't do this, the union doesn't do that. And he'll be like, Aaron, you're the union. Like, you're the union. We're the union. We got to, if the union's not doing it, then that means we have to do it. And that has really helped me, at least, to really mobilize my activism and be like, I may not always agree with what the union says, but if I want it to change, I got to show up at the very least. That's how it works. So,
yeah. And you have to make it. You have to make those the issues, and we have to move forward with those issues, because it's not you can't just play, we're doing what the majority or what the majority wants, but you might have a different opinion, and then let's come to the table. Let's discuss that. Let's make that happen.
Yeah. We ask everyone this question. It may not be very straightforward as a union president. I know you have like an academic office, but as a union president, how would you answer the question, like, where is your office? You may not have one, but how would you answer that? Where do you do the work of the union president? Is it like your car or is it?
Everywhere.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's everywhere, right? So we have a union office in the dungeon in Siemens Hall, but
The
we can't get
dungeon.
in. The dungeon. I call it the dungeon because there's no windows. And then I
Aptly
have my
named.
office, but sometimes it's in my office, it's in the dungeon, it's in the community, it's on campus, on or the different spaces in the community where we gather to organize.
What was the biggest thing that you had to learn when you started as the chapter president?
I think one of the biggest things is that it's hard to organize faculty, and I have to remind them, you're not the only one in this union. There, we represent lectures A and B, and yes, it's okay for you, but we're also fighting for them, right? So, and then we're not all the same. And so I also feel like that's an education that has to happen with faculties. Like, we're not all the same. We don't have all the same issues. So when we're fighting for something, just don't think about yourself. This will benefit the others more so than you, right? So I think that that's difficult sometimes for some people. But I think we did a little bit of education on that. I think what's different, I guess that, and I don't know if it's persuasion or education, but I also feel like, I mean, this isn't only about you, right? So I think it's most professors are not organizers, so it's hard to get them organized because what they know how to do is research and educate people on what they know. So getting people organized and them, it's difficult. I think I do agree with some people who say the most difficult to organize are professors, and I would agree.
We have strong opinions.
Yes, I think that's it. It's strong opinions,
Yeah.
strong perspectives, and of course, we want to engage in that, but sometimes it takes longer than you would want it to take
Yeah. Yeah.
to get people to see, and then it's hard. But I think we did a good job, and I think out of this year, I think more people know what organizing is and what it takes to make a difference and what it takes to change our working conditions. What does it take? So I think everybody was able to see that, and I think politically or philosophically, we understand what it takes to make change, but that to acting and making that happen, that is difficult for people.
KZZH.
And so I think, yeah, and I think it's especially difficult for professors.
KZZH 96.7 FM. This is the Civic Union. We're talking to Dr. Marisol Ruiz, the president of the Humboldt chapter of the California Faculty Association. Dr. Ruiz, one of the things I struggle with as a member of the union is the classic divide between like work and life. And when it comes to being a lecturer, I'm getting better and better at being like, these are my hours. I am out after those hours. But as a union person, it's like the struggle never quits. And there's always more that I feel like I could be doing. So I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit to like how the day to day of being a union president goes and how do you kind of strike some of those balances?
Yes, I think that's difficult because we only get 3 units, fall and spring, and fall and spring, three, right? But we still have a full load that we're teaching, and also not only that we're still doing our research, which we get 3 units for service and research, which is not enough. It's not enough time if you're doing any kind of research. It's not enough time if you're doing any kind of a service. It always requires, like so much time. So I don't. I also agree. Yeah, like don't. I feel like so. One, I guess what I want to say is that more of us as professors are working for free. We're all of us are working for free. I'm a culprit of it. I am number one culprit. And that's because there's not a lot of faculty of color. There's not a lot of students. So we have something that's called cultural taxation, which I bet you too, and when you're advocating for disability rights, anybody who has a disability or is because this is where I'm a feminist and I am also a woman of color. And so there's, women also come to me with Title IX, with all these questions, right? So you are culturally taxed on this, and you're also culturally taxed on Latinos on campus, right? So all of this makes you work harder, longer, and free, free, and you feel like you can't say no because this is part of the larger struggle of trying to help our students, right? Navigate the system, which is difficult. Like if you're navigating Title IX, like how do you get justice? If you're navigating from one class, a professor, or navigating through the system, just all of that not everyone is willing to help our students, I think. And so I believe, and so then that's our task. And so definitely we do a lot of free labor.
Yeah.
And a lot of hours that sometimes seem endless, or I'm not out of that campus until really late at night. And then I come in really early sometimes. And so, and to make that or build that community for our students, right? For our Latino students, for women who have been victimized or are survivors, all of that. Like, how do you create and make those spaces? And so, and who are the professors? Not everybody is a feminist. Not everybody is someone who believes, who wants to build community with Latinos. And so, and these, you are culturally taxed for those reasons. And then part of fighting to make those spaces, to create those spaces that make it more accessible to all of us.
How do you create balance in your life with these issues? Is it
I
a
don't feel
struggle?
like I feel like I am a very bad person at doing that. And so don't look at me. I have not done this well.
I was
And I
hoping
think
you had an
that's
answer.
well, what I try to do is my research, my service to community, my work with students is all interrelated, right? It's on education, it's accessibility, it's on teacher testing, but at the same time, ethnic studies, teaching ethnic studies. So all of this relates. So I try to make it all to
Yeah.
the work that I'm doing. But sometimes you get battle fatigue, definitely. It's a lot. Yeah, but if there's a way that you can relate what you're doing in your research and in your service and in your teaching, it would be good. Because I'm also the co-chair of the Teacher Ed Caucus, which we've been fighting against teacher testing and diversifying our field. And a big roadblock is teacher testing, and that's with the legislature and policy work, which is a different type of organizing, and trying to convince legislators why your issue is important, why they should vote this way or that way, right?
When people think about your average college professor, I think they have a very dated image in their mind. As the union president, if I ask you who are your constituents and how do you represent them, again, we're talking about counselors, librarians, coaches, lecturers, tenured professors. Who are these people? Give us like kind of a snapshot of who these people are. When the protest was going down, there was a lot of like snark in the community that's like, oh, all these ivory tower professors and their laid back cushy jobs. When the strike was going down, we were getting some of that. And frankly, a lot of our students are surprised to learn what like lecturers in particular can earn teaching the classes. They're kind of shocked to learn how little some lecturers get paid. What kind of snapshot would you give us of your constituents? What kind of folks are they?
I think that there's a difference. I think one is we need to place this historically. Like one of the reasons, like if we think about the 80s, we become a union in the 80s. What is happening? Reaganomics, all of these things. Like we are cutting universities. Not only that, we see a influx of people of color getting their education and getting their degrees and their PhDs. And now that we have a more diverse faculty, now that we have a more female faculty, that was not the case, right? So Ivory Tower, maybe back in the days when your education was free, when everybody got to go to school, but then not everybody was allowed to be in the university, weren't given the same benefits, right? This is the university where we can think of an ivory tower. But today, you have mainly, you have this, what the civil rights won. You have people with not only able-bodied, heterosexual, male, white, now you have disabled folks, you have lots of females, women, you have women of color, you have men of, and that creates a situation where then the system with its racial and sexist bias now becomes a university which doesn't want to pay professors what maybe they deserve, or ivory tower kind of wages. And not only that, then they don't want to hire tenured professors. They don't want to do the tenured track, right? And not only do they not want to, now they want to hire contingent faculty, because that's how we keep it wages low and more money to the top, less to the bottom, which are the faculty. The faculty are the ones who do the work with the students. So I think that that's a major difference. Now, I am in teacher ed. Most of us would make more money if we would have stayed in high school teaching than we do here. And people get surprised, even our lecturers, when they come and teach and they're high school teachers, or they are working at the district office, and they were like, damn, we get paid so low. So that's another, but also the fact that they've hired, that wasn't the case in the 70s of contingent faculty. This is a new thing that becomes to get increased with Reaganomics and as a way to lower wages. And more work. I mean, today we know, so for example, faculty have to publish, right? If we publish, we don't get paid for the journals, but the journals that they do. And so as faculty, as creative faculty that we are, union strong, union brain right here, we want to create articles where anybody has access. And that's what we created with the Ethnic Studies Pedagogies Journal that we have going with the critical educators. We have created avenues and also articles where you can get them for free wherever you are. And you don't have to get on these New York publishing companies where each article costs $45, and you're like, where's my money? Yeah. So I think that that's changed, right? So one, it's the salaries have lowered for faculty, but and for students, now they have to pay. So all of us who came out of college, we all had loans. That was different, right? So once they open the gates to allow people of color to get their education, now we start this loan process, which is predatory lending, to tell you the truth. And some of us end up with $100,000. So you're having to pay. What does that mean? If you owe $100,000, that means that you're paying $1,000 just to that loan every year. And at the same time, you're trying to pay rent. Rents have gone, especially in this part of California, have gone up. So think about it, this professor now has to pay $2,000 for rent, has to pay another $1,000. So maybe he is making $4,000 a month, but $3,000 goes to loan and your rent. And then that's not counting food. And if you have a family, so at least you need more than that $4,000 to make ends. And we pay taxes too. So it's like you might be making $5,000. What does that mean? So each time, and each time we also have a different dynamic, like people now live alone or they don't have partners, although it is very convenient to have a partner, right? The Color of Wealth is a really good book.
Yeah.
Because The Color of Wealth tells you, what does it mean? If you've had, this is the other thing, I ended up having conversations on The Color of Wealth with some of the professors, because I was like, there's a difference between being a faculty of color, having to be the first one to graduate from college, first generation. What does that mean? That means that you're supporting most of your family that's not making ends meet in this economy. Yeah, so not only am I, that means that you're helping to support your mother, your brothers and sisters that don't have, that your wage just gets cut into many pieces because you're paying a bill for everybody, or you're helping your family sustain in this economy. I think that's different. That's the first gen is the big, right? First gen usually are the ones helping to support their mom, their mother-in-law, right? They're helping to support that income with the bills, with paying half of the rent, whatever that is, or medical bills, And I am 100% medical for all. That's the next fight. We need medical for all because this is crazy. And so I think those are the biggest differences that we see. So our mind of ivory tower is no longer. That used to be, and believe us who got a PhD thinking that we could do so much more. It's hard.
I
It's
wish.
hard, right?
Yeah.
It's difficult, and especially for lecturers or for our contingent faculty, which we're always fighting. And as soon as they're tenure positions, we want them to have it. They should be first choice.
Yeah.
They've given so much of their work to the university that they should have first choice, and they should be tenured. But contingent faculty do get paid not a living wage in this economy. It becomes very difficult. And so I think that those are the things. And because we love our job, because most of us are in the field that we love. Like I love teacher ed, right?
Yeah.
And even just creating these journals. Now we're reviewing for free, and getting even people to review for us is difficult because everybody is being overworked. Even though we're getting the salary, we also work a lot of hours for free, even just reviewing journals or just creating these platforms where we want it accessible to all that.
Yeah.
And it's thanks to us coming into the field. I think us more a more intersectional faculty with all their identities now coming into the field. I believe, especially in teacher education, well, I'll speak for my field, but I think all fields, they've become richer and more, more fascinating, more complex. And we get to grapple on all these critical conversations that we need to have. And I believe that this is what makes a better prepared teacher as they're going to help other young people in our field, right? Or in the classroom, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a building on our campus called Talaniker House, and it's called that because it used to belong to a dude that lived there and was a professor, and that's how it worked. When you were a professor, they would give you a house, and you would live in that house on the campus, and that's how that worked. And now there are 9 offices in that building, 9 separate offices in that one building that used to be someone's home. And I use that as a metaphor for how much has changed. And many of those people are lecturers, and they don't know if they have classes next semester. And if they don't, you can't really take a master's or a PhD down to your local store and get a shift. That's not exactly how it works with that education. It's very, very precarious indeed. We don't have
and then I think another difference is we begin to pay the presidents of the university more and more money. And so $300,000 is a lot of money. In a public university, maybe professors should be the presidents of the university and rotating that. We could be creative to creating a public university which open to the public, to the people, and for the people, and not just what we see now.
Yeah.
But I think that these are critical changes that happen, right? As soon as we diversify the field, then we cut wages, we put more to the top, more policing, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and you start
then our deviant bodies then become the sites of policing. Yeah. And that is problematic, and that's what's happening today.
That's a good segue to the semester that we had. We don't have a whole lot of time, but I would like to spend a little bit of time just talking about the semester that we had as a union. It started with an historic strike where we joined the biggest educators union in the country for what turned out to be a one-day strike, but we did not know that at the time. What did that mean for you as union president to face that at the beginning of the semester? What was that like?
I mean, of course, anything that happens at the beginning of the semester, any professor will tell you is extremely stressful because you're starting to
Terrible.
get the semester.
Yeah.
Everybody's ready to go, and then, oh my God, we're gonna strike. So getting everybody on board, and of course, you have the people that are like, oh, I don't know, I'm scared, and we did have people that were scared, and
Yeah.
who does this mean I'll lose my job, and we had to do a lot of de-escalating of like, don't fear, this is for us, we're together in this, we're united, solidarity is important, and if we are all here together, no, they can't take us all down,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so I think that that was important to reinforce. So I guess a union president is also like a counselor.
Yeah.
Counseling, it's gonna be okay.
Uh-huh.
Rah rah, right?
Yeah.
You can do it, right? So yeah. So I think we did good. The counselors had the questions. New faculty had questions. I mean, it's fearful. People believe they will lose their job, but there's power in numbers. And if they are spending so much money in trying to get people to disinvest and to divest from the union, that means that we are powerful. And we are powerful because we're united. We are powerful because we're together. And we show up for each other in masses to protect each other and to demand, our rights.
We saw that solidarity extend at the end of the semester. So that was January. Fast forward now to May and April, and we see an historic protest nationwide, worldwide protest going on. Same question. What was that like for you as the union president? This one was a little outside of the wheelhouse. If you think of the union as just like worker rights related, the strike is what we do. But one thing I noticed with this protest was pretty much everyone with the union council was like, what do? We just leapt to action. We started meetings. We started organizing. What was your take on that?
Yeah, and I think I thought that was really good. And I think we did some teachings that were really important for people to understand the issues because not everybody understood what was happening and or why it was happening and what they could do about it. So I think the teachings were really powerful. And then the support of our bodies to protect students to uh, not be hit with the baton, right?
Right.
And at the same time, as we were ending, I had master's thesis students. So as they were finishing their thesis, it was like,
Wow.
I have to help them too because they're trying to get their thesis, but we also have to have faculty out there to protect the other students who are protesting, so they're not criminalized for the protests.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. So I think even after the protest, the work still continued because we had two resolutions, one to decriminalize everybody who was at the protest. So the Senate and CFA has a seat at the Senate, and the Senate is the representative of all the faculty, had a resolution to drop all charges to the protesters, which I think was really important work that we did. And Tim Miller, who is in the librarian was one of the librarians I want to shout out. He was great in writing those resolutions and helping to write those resolutions too, and everybody in the Senate. But then the next Senate was dropping all the suspensions. Now they say the Senate, that's faculty. We have some power, at least, like to say we don't agree as faculty with what you're doing. We don't agree with you closing down campus. So I think we were able to do some of that work, and that was effective, but I'm not sure if it's getting to their ears or they're wanting to budge, even though we've done that, right? And also we disagree with the campus being closed. It's a community space.
Yeah.
It should be open to the public. People should be able to go in, use the library, and be able to walk through the doors. This is our taxpayers pay for this. It's not just tuition money. Taxpayers are also paying for it, and so I feel like that needs to be fought for too. And like we say, like, why are we being charged? Why are we charging community to use our space when it should be, if we're not using it, it should be free for them to use.
Yeah.
But again, this corporate or wanting to capitalize on everything, we should also be able to give, back. And of course, we have to pay bills like everywhere else, but there has to be some kind of, say thank you to the public for keeping this going. I think all of us who are keeping this university going is like, thank you, reduce rates, whatever that might be, right? But I do think that we need to make sure that the campus is open. People can open the doors, go to the bathroom when they need to, and not this like everybody has a key card. That's crazy to me.
Oof. The terrible, terrible system. I could spend an hour bemoaning what they have done. But rather, I would point out that the Humboldt Del Norte Central Labor Council named the CFA, the California or the Humboldt chapter of the CFA, the Union of the Year for the county. It's a little self-congratulatory, but congratulations. That's very, very exciting. What was winning that award like for you as the president?
I think that was beautiful because there was a recognition of all the work that we did, like from the beginning to the end.
Yeah.
And all of us in this, not only me as president, but all, pushing everybody to the spot, like you, Aaron, Lauren, everybody was in the spotlight at one point. Andrea Delgado, like everybody was in the spotlight to dealing with media or talking to media about what we're doing. I really feel like it was a team effort and it was a lot of work.
Yeah.
Right. So from beginning to end, we ended in struggle, and even just doing those resolutions ended in struggle, like the vote of no confidence for the president, the whole push to to drop all suspensions and all criminal charges for trespassing. I mean, should we have a trespassing on our campus when it's community owned?
It's a community,
a community, like, could you be charged with trespassing? I just find that problematic.
Let's make students not criminals. Make students not criminals.
Yeah.
It's simple.
Yes. I mean, I think we could have dealt with it very differently, like other universities have, not locking. I mean, I believe we are the only university that has locked all of its doors.
They say other ones have, but I've never been to one for sure. And I think it is very anthem to what a public university is supposed to be. I think a lot of ambient education happens when people can wander our halls, and we put posters and displays up for that very purpose, because that is what they are for. I would like to say
and then
that,
the other thing is, like, some people think that the university is only students. I think communities have a place in our universities as well, especially when we do events like we do educationals or any events, movie, films, like we've done films. I love when community come. I love when community come with the students and we're able to have discussions. We don't always agree. And the fact that we are able to grapple with these issues together is beautiful. Like, even for Sanctuary City, we fought for Sanctuary City. I mean, think about it. At the university, we had even the mayor who wasn't all on board, and just even the students, the mayor even be able to listen to the students was like, oh, okay, I get it. I get it now. I get what you're talking about. Like, we were able to I educate people like why it was important to become a sanctuary county. But that was beautiful. We had a lot of community people on campus when we were doing sanctuary and the McKinleyville statue. Lots of discussion. There was it took years, and there was lots of discussion. It was beautiful.
Plaza looks great now.
I think is very pivotal in all of that, of course.
Plazas never look better, in my opinion. Dylan, our lecturer rep, points out that that as a student growing up in Arcata, he would spend time on campus. He would just go up to look at the art and look at what the students were making. I would go play piano on the campus in my town because it was one of the only places that there was a piano. And I have found myself wishing students were not playing the piano so loud, and at the same time being like, I get it. This is what it's for. This is what they're supposed to do. Let's go get it and play some piano. It's sad that they've locked it all down. I did want to say that at that meeting with the Labor Council, it was really inspiring to me to see all the other unions. There were other teacher unions there. There were nurses unions there. There were all the trades out, and everybody was just, looking at kind of some of the same struggles and seeing each other. That made a big difference. We're pretty much out of time, but I just want to ask, it's been a heck of a year. What was your favorite part of being the CFA chapter president, and what do you think the union has to look forward to next year?
I think more fights. No.
Yeah, right.
I
Let's
mean,
end
I
on a
think
good note.
I think what does the union have to look forward is like making sure the campus stays public for everybody, and a learning space for all of us, right? For community, a public university, a few university for all of us, and for years to come, and protecting the essence of what that university was created for. And I feel like, how do we share space? That's the other thing, like you were saying, some of the, it's like sharing space is so important. Like, how do we make this accessible for everybody? And I mean, I feel like we're a training and a learning ground. Is like, how do we work together in solidarity within the, we don't always agree, but if even as we don't agree, how do we come together and fight for a common cause? And part of that cause is protecting a public university. What I love the most is having these critical conversations with all of us, making our brains expand and blow, right? And working in solidarity with all of us, and how beautiful all the faculty are with their creative selves. Everybody's like, let's do this. That's creative, right? It's just like very creative. And also working with our students, like we were very good at working with students and community folks together in solidarity. Like all causes need to be intergenerational with all of us together at the center and fighting to get that. That's how we make change. And that's how you make change in community. That's how you make change here.
Dr. Ruiz, just thank you so much for taking the time. It's been a real treat talking to you.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
This has been the Civic Union, a collaboration between KZZH, Access Humboldt, and the Department of Communication Studies at Cal Poly Humboldt, uniting the people of the county with their representative government and community helpers. Once again, I'd like to thank Dr. Marisol Ruiz for joining us, and thanks also to my producer, Nate Dogg. Have you missed any of our prior shows? Well, good news. Nate Dogg has put them on YouTube. That's at the Civic Union over there. Check it out. We've been running for over a year now. There's a lot to learn from the folks who make our county hum. We will be back next month at 6 p.m. on Monday, July the 1st, with more local people serving our community right here on 96.7 FM Eureka. Do you know someone we should talk to? You can send us an email. That's the Civic Union, all one word, at gmail.com. Up next, certified animal behaviorist Charlotte Peltz gives you tips, tricks, and tools to make it work with the roommate who play bows to complete strangers. It's living with your dog right here on 96.7 KZZH. Access Humboldt, local voices through community media.